And the December meeting, by the way, in case anybody has a pencil and wants to make note, we'll send out an email later, but we're going to do it here, and it's going to be on the 11th of December. And that's our general membership meeting, so it's going to be complimentary for members of the Florida chapter. All right, I guess the next announcement has to do with the inception of the Kirby Mole Memorial Scholarship. Now we have the preparations complete within the Florida chapter to award the Kirby Mole Scholarship. The board has decided to award this scholarship once each year to one person who is in an agency whose agency can't afford to send them for their certification. That will be somebody available to go be certified as a certified Inspector General Auditor, and another, somebody who will be certified as a certified Inspector General Investigator. So we'll be awarding the scholarships. We're posting the application out on our Florida chapter website this afternoon. We'll be considering applications for the next 30 days or so in accordance with the procedures that the board has approved. And in November, we should come to a final, or in November, we'll be considering the applications. By our general membership meeting in December, we should have a decision on who those scholarships will be awarded to. And those will be for the first set of institutes that will be taking place in February of 2013 in Austin, Texas. So the provisions are that this scholarship will be awarded for the cost of tuition. The lucky recipients of the scholarships will need to agree to fund their own travel for the institutes. But that's going to be over half the cost, and that's significant. And we can do that for our membership because we have such a large chapter and we collect a good amount of money in dues every year. We'll hear Jerry's treasurer's report in just a moment. But it's because of you, because of joining the chapter, that we've got that money available to have those scholarships. And again, the person who submitted the idea for this scholarship is Kim Doss from the Department of Health, sitting right over there, a recent attendee in the Certified Inspector General Investigator course and successful graduate. So thank you, Kim, and thanks to the members. I got an email this morning that Melinda sent around. One announcement that I suppose is appropriate here to make. One of our colleagues is retiring from state service, Jim Knight, and Jim's got a retirement party hosted inside his agency on October the 30th from 3 to 4:30. Jim has served with the state of Florida for 26 years and been the Inspector General in the Department of Fish and Wildlife for, gosh, I don't know, I remember for at least 15 years. I don't know if anybody remembers further back than that. Since 1995 as the Inspector General. So come and recognize Jim if you're available. All right. So I've mentioned the institutes coming up in February. The registration deadline has passed but has been extended for our annual conference, which is next week in Clearwater. So if anybody hasn't registered for that and would still like to get a room, registrations are extended until tomorrow afternoon. So we'll be meeting at our annual conference the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th of October in Clearwater out on Sand Key. We have a very good agenda. We have about 200 people scheduled to attend the conference right now. We have some exciting speakers, including Vice Admiral James Wisecup, who's the Inspector General of the Navy. So a great agenda, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot of our members down there. All right, and so now I'd like to introduce Melinda Miguel, the President of the National Association of Inspectors General, to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it. Can you hear me? I don't think it's on.
Button right on.
My voice probably is loud enough. Thank you. Well, first, before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge and recognize and ask each of you that have recently gone through the CIGI or the CIG or the CIGA. And let me see if this will work. Okay, I don't think it is.
Let's see if I get that fixed.
Okay, thank you. If you could stand if you've recently completed your certification as Inspector General Auditor or Investigator. Excellent. All right, a round of applause, everybody, for those that have recently completed. Thank you so very much for your participation in the recent institutes. We had over 102 people that went through and got certified in Palm Beach, so really appreciate your support of the Inspector General community here in the state of Florida. I have a wonderful opportunity today to present our guest speaker. I want to tell you a little bit about our speaker, Hunt Deutsch. He received his bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of New Hampshire. He also received an MBA from the University of Miami. He's a member of the University of Miami's President's Council and former member of the Board of Governors of Dade Community Foundation. He also served on UM's Board of Trustees from 2001 to 2005. He was the president of the UM Alumni Association and also the former chair of the Trust Management Association. He has 30 years of senior level experience in the banking industry. He was executive vice president of wealth management at the Bank United Financial Corporation and president of Bank United Financial Services from 2006 to 2009. He also served as executive VP for AmSouth Bank in Birmingham and was the managing director prior to that at Citigroup Private Bank in Miami. Hunt has also spent 20 years in SunTrust Banks, there in the Orlando office, SunTrust Inc., and including in several different management positions there, like CEO, president of Private Client and Retirement Services, and president and CEO of Trust and Investment Services. He also was a South Florida Banking and Finance Up-and-Comers finalist, I found out.
That was a long time.
But I think that kind of goes to show you that he's a very ambitious man, going back even to his beginning days, maybe when he was a varsity swim team member in school. And one of the things that I thought that was really awesome about Hunt was some of his interests. Besides working in all of these fantastic, prestigious positions, some of his hobbies include golf, travel, and two things near and dear to my heart: sports cars and fishing. I have 2 Corvettes, just for your information. Are you really into Formula One racing? Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal. I would love to find out more about that. Then in 2012, in April of 2012, then Governor Rick Scott appointed Hunt to serve as the executive director for the Department of Economic Opportunity. I had the privilege of working with Hunt as we selected his newly appointed Inspector General, Joe Malashevsky, and trying to recruit the best and the brightest for this shining star agency. And I understand that your agency is now going through its 1-year anniversary this month. And that's really exciting stuff. So I know I won't steal your thunder so you can brag about your state agency. I know you've done some really amazing things, including reining in some of the workforce boards, and would love to hear about your experiences as the agency head there at DEO. So please, everyone, welcome Hunt Deutsch. It looks like this might work.
That's a good idea.
All right.
Linda, thanks.
Thank you. My pleasure.
These people can't picture me in a Speedo, I'm sure, at this stage in my life. That was a long time ago. But I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here today, and Melinda in particular, because quite frankly, when I first joined state government, and Rick Scott called in his office and asked if I would consider this and a couple other jobs, and one of which was financial services regulation. I said not only no, but hell no. I've had enough of the banking business. And but they said DEO, and I said, what is that? And went on the website. It wasn't very descriptive, quite frankly. I didn't know what I was getting into. But for weeks after that, and we were at the governor's mansion and for a fellows event, and he said, how's it going? And I said, well, I wish everybody would stop asking me, are you back for another day and another week? Because either I didn't ask the right questions or I didn't know what I was getting into, quite frankly. And we're going to talk about one of those challenging issues today that first confronted us. But as you all know, James Matthews was the Inspector General when I first started there. And by the way, I don't know if you all know this, we did celebrate on Monday our 1-year anniversary as an agency, 3 prior agencies obviously coming together. I've outlawed what those 3 prior agency names are. But at the end of the day, through the 1 year, and I'm the longest serving head of DEO and the 3rd head of DEO. So I'm going into my 6th month, so I can say I'm the tallest midget at DEO these days. But you know, early on I needed to make organizational changes. I was given that direction, guidance, and by the governor's office, and I didn't know the time period. They were, I think, expecting some changes within 6 days, and I was more thinking about 60 to get my hands around the agency and being fair and evaluating the senior management staff. And But the first person that I needed to replace, obviously, was with James' retirement of 35 years. And so I turned to Melinda, and quite frankly, she was an extraordinary partner. And I want to say that not just because you guys are here, but you know, it was the first job, a senior job I had to replace at DEO. And she said, she gave me the pick of the litter, as they say, in three, and we talked about what my expectations are as Inspector General, being a business partner. And so she said, I got the right person for you. We interviewed, and that was the rest was history. But at the end of the day, I really view Joe and his team and his advice and guidance and counsel, and he was the first of many changes. I have a new communications director, a new CFO, have a new, let me think about this, a new general counsel. Yeah, big guy. He makes me look small. Our general counsel is just shy of 7 feet, 6'9", and we have so we have a lot of new players in the agency. No longer a chief operating officer. That job's gone, and new chief of staff, and so at the end of the day, we've gone through a leadership transformation, and to ensure that we're meeting the expectations of the governor and the agency and how it was formed in that regard. And Joe just published his, and it's pretty fancy too. It's got pictures and graphs, and I like Inspector Generals, that for those of us who are visual in nature. But you know, we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and it's funny because when Joe gave me the Florida statutes, and I know you guys like all these acronyms and statutes and numbers, none of which I can remember, but you know, it talked about what does an Inspector General do. So I have read this document, Melinda, just so you know, and you know, so, but at the end of the day, this is the first time I've been asked to talk to a group of auditors since my banking career, and I was regulated, one of the regulatory agencies that oversaw my operation. Last year I was at SunTrust. We had 22 separate regulatory exams. That's how much regulatory oversight that we enjoyed in the banking business. And I won't say what I was really going to say, but you know, the OCC invited me to come to Minneapolis, Minnesota, to address them, the national group, and how can you say no to your chief regulator, quite frankly? And I had run at that point all the pension and investment operations for SunTrust company-wide and corporate trust, and we had outsourced our entire $30 billion pension business to a third party, and they wanted to talk to me to talk about that transition of 2,400 401ks and defined benefit plans to a partner, and how to control a third-party outsourcing strategy. But anyway, this is a much nicer place, is the bottom line, to go to than going to Minneapolis. I couldn't quite understand why there was tunnels everywhere between buildings. It was pretty cold up there. But you know, in getting prepared for this, and Joe asked me to talk today about one of our first challenges when I arrived at the agency. There was media about a year ago, actually almost a year ago to this past month, that Scott dumps job agency leadership and board in Orlando, Florida. Unprecedented that the governor intervenes and has to throw out the entire workforce board and executive director and the entire staff in Workforce Central Florida. And we had had a year-long investigation and extensive documentation and issues. The governor's letter same day to Teresa Jacobs as the mayor, and if you know the structure, and I think Joe's put together an excellent synopsis of where does DEO fit, where does Workforce Florida fit, where do the agency, or excuse me, the 24 workforce offices fit. And I just actually came from a workforce meeting from this meeting, as well as we had this morning a conference call with the Central Florida group in terms of what our final findings are and the remaining dollars and how we plan with them to try to mitigate them and work through them. And so this is a current issue, quite frankly. It's an issue of 3 times, and today and in talking about this. So we're trying to put this behind us, and it's our intent when the governor goes down for the workforce board meeting, Enterprise Florida board meeting, November 8th and 9th, and we're going to also launch, for you all's benefit, one of the other major projects on DEO's plate was to come up with a 5-year economic development plan. We've had any number of stakeholder meetings. Every agency of state governments participated under on the direction of the governor's office. So it's a plan that we'll launch actually at that meeting with the governor. But we're hoping and expecting to see if we can put Central Florida to bed at that same meeting because of the publicity that, quite frankly, the workforce system has gotten as a byproduct of what really amounted to complete indiscretions by the staff and the board in Central Florida, as many of you all might remember some of the publicity. So, but at the end of the day, I want to thank Joe for pulling it together, because I think the first I don't know, couple of weeks you were there was a very critical juncture, and James and his staff have been involved in this thing for almost a year or better part of a year. And we had a very short time period to pull together all these various component parts of this. You go in ad nauseum. So it was a trial by fire for Joe, quite frankly, pulling together a synopsis with Carolyn and others, all of the different investigations that had gone on as a byproduct of Workforce Central Florida. And it was a weekly report, I got to tell you, when I first got here, I was giving to the governor's office. But, at the end of the day, what we're going to talk about is something that was more of a program and a product of what we saw in the banking business, and that was an internal control compliance program. And in my former life, I'm used to audits that were clearly shorter in duration. I don't know that they were smaller in scope, but at the end of the day, I was used to things that now take 12 months, taking 120 days in my former life, quite frankly. So that's one of my challenges to Joe, because I don't want to make sure that we get to issues early enough that we have early warning signs to and give tools, quite frankly. Because one of the things I heard when I first met in the first 30 days I was with the agency, I met with all the chairmen of all the workforce boards around Florida. And one of the things I heard from them is they weren't engaged in the management of what is a $300 million enterprise. $300 million of